and illegality going on in Washington, it's easy to feel helpless, like there's nothing you can do. Don't believe it. Every state has laws protecting your data online. The penalties for violation are civil and criminal. Elon Musk and his tech bros are not above the law, and a corrupt president has no ability to pardon state crimes.
Elon Musk has gained access to sensitive personal data on millions of Americans, including social security numbers and bank information. President Trump says he wants Musk to go even further.
Take action.
Recently, Donald Trump had yet another complete breakdown. Let's just say that the new parody ads released by the Lincoln Project are not funny to Trump, all right? Imagine a child flinging toys across the room, except that the toys are angry truth. Social media posts in all caps. He's likely perspiring through his spray tan while ranting and raving. Was the Lincoln Project finished? Just cook him too long. This meltdown will be remembered for a long time, so grab some popcorn and let's get started.
The Lincoln Project salutes Vice President Donald Trump. As Vice President, Trump will finally have the time to do the things that make him happiest. Talk about old movies, playing on his phone, admiring the assets of other men. Meanwhile, President Musk can get down to the business of running the country. We at the Lincoln Project are confident that Donald Trump understands his position.
President Trump announced this month that the Gulf of Mexico is going to become the Gulf of America. Can Jimmy have some freedom fries with that? Well then, how about a big, beautiful canal instead?
And we're taking it back.
But if tropical isn't your thing, how about the land of ice and snow? Looks like Christmas is in January this year. Greenland, or should we say America land?
Donald Trump is struggling. He is probably frantic and ranting while pacing Mar-a-Lago in a bathrobe and holding a Diet Coke in his tiny hands. The Lincoln Project, his longtime foe, has irritated him again and badly. He is the direct target of a fresh round of parody ads that have been released. However, let's be honest, Trump has the emotional resilience of a recently expelled middle school student. He enjoys pretending to be tough, a political whiz, and the master of comebacks every time the Lincoln Project releases a new commercial. It's like watching someone poke a bear. Only the bear is spray-tanned, wearing a red tie that reaches his knees, and spends most of his time on Truth Social yelling at the clouds. Republicans
in Washington. They ran for office thinking they could be on the field, making a difference. Players in the big time, respected, powerful, difference makers. Not anymore. Republicans have turned in their game uniforms and become cheerleaders. They jump up and down on the sidelines.
He's doing a lot by executive authority, which we applaud.
Preen for the cameras.
He's in charge, and it's a great feeling to have him back in the Oval Office.
They know their role.
He's moving forward aggressively across all areas of government.
Cheer for Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Donald Trump on Monday night, he sees this, and he goes, oh, these damn Lincoln Project people. And he puts this Truth Social out. Rick, let the dramatic reading commence.
The perverts at the failed Lincoln Project, who I was told were left-leaning rhinos that had lost their way and almost all of their financial support, just did an ad showing grassy, calm, and peaceful southern border, not an illegal migrant in sight, explaining what a great job crooked Joe Biden did in dealing with what has become one of the many Biden-inspired, country-threatening problems facing the United States today. Jesus, that's a run-on, Donald.
Good God.
They didn't happen to mention anything about the 18 million illegal aliens that have invaded our country, many from prisons and mental institutions, by the end of the failed Biden administration. Nor did they talk about the drugs pouring into the USA in amounts so large that no one, just 3 years ago, would have thought it possible. Watch what happens to these failed Lincoln Project screwballs.
Why is he having yet another breakdown on the internet because of these new ads? Oh, Joe Biden's usual reminder of his defeat, his criminal indictments, and the fact that his most ardent supporters are deserting him faster than a cheap pancake. The Lincoln Project has refined the art of psychological warfare. They taunt, ridicule, and hold Trump's flaws in front of him like a carrot rather than just criticizing him. He will never get Donald in the event that you enjoy. Do not forget to subscribe. One thing in particular caught him off guard when I used the term deep end. I mean all caps, full-blown rage mode, the type of rage where the face turns redder than a Florida tourist with a sunburn, and the Mar-a-Lago Wi-Fi begins to overheat from excessive Twitter. Scrolling, it wasn't all criticism, it was an outright challenge to his authority. A slap the ego was reminded that his iron grip might not be as firm as he thought. Picture Trump lounging in his gold-plated chair, idly perusing his feed in between. Gulp of a ketchup-dripping perfectly cooked steak with a Diet Coke in one hand and a phone in the other. He anticipates the usual bootlicking comments and maybe someone likening him to Abraham Lincoln, but better when he sees something that makes his blood pressure rise like a 4th of July fireworks display.
Donald Trump is a convicted felon, and if elected...
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one.
He is a danger to this country.
I did something that nobody thought was possible.
He will abolish your rights.
I got rid of Roe v. Wade.
He is a danger to our democracy.
I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. There's nothing wrong with saying that you've recalculated.
He is a danger to national security.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of him.
He is a danger to our safety.
It calls into question not only his authority, it mocks him. It suggests that his authority is waning faster than his grip on classified documents, and that he is no longer the all-powerful kingmaker he once was. When he reads it, you know the response is instantaneous. The phone clenches in his hand, the Diet Coke trembles, silence falls, and an assistant starts quietly updating their resume as everyone within 5 miles of Mar-a-Lago realizes the storm is coming. Then it happens, the anger erupts, a ketchup bottle flies across the room and splashes against the wall like a Jackson Pollock painting of the golf course outside, and there's a distant guttural scream of frustration as he frantically types a tweet that is so full of capitals and exclamation points that autocorrect just stops working. His thumbs go into overdrive, his rivals, meanwhile, are giggling and watching from afar. They know they've set off a chain reaction. They can already predict the frenzied rambling about witch hunts and fake news, the mayhem on social media in the middle of the night, and possibly even a new nickname for one of his enemies.
Response to a video shared by former President Trump, which declares, yes, God made Trump, suggesting he's been put on earth to be some kind of a savior for the country. So the new ad from the Lincoln Project is a spoof of that message. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, "I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people." So God made a dictator. God said, "I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs." So God made a dictator. God said, "I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear." So God made a dictator. God said, "I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice." So God made a dictator. God said, "I need a man who will use violence to seize power." So God made a dictator. God said, "I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages." So God made a dictator.
Kicking your ass every single day. So if you want to try to sue us, Donald, go for it. Throw down. Let's go. We can't wait. You won't do it because you are, in fact, as I said previously, completely impotent. Just ask Melania.
Rick Wilson, Trump's unofficial chief tormentor and co-founder of the Lincoln Project, is no longer merely a fantasy. He has thrown a housewarming party redecorated and installed a hot tub Wilson, who has dedicated his life to getting under Trump's notoriously thin skin. Is the Picasso of political trolling. One of Trump's most vulnerable fears, the awareness that deep down, even people who say they admire him are making fun of him like a child in a suit, is the focus of his most recent work, which is a biting critique. Didn't just offer criticism. He brought about the sun's complete eclipse as a wannabe tough guy who acts like a villain in the WWE, but melts in Florida faster than an ice cream cone. He attacked Trump. Trump likes to respond to even the slightest criticism by strutting around with his chest puffed out and boasting about his massive brain and perfect phone calls. But Wilson would have none of it. He attacked Trump for being a phony, a man whose entire public persona is built on bluster, but who quickly devolves into a puddle of whiny tweets when someone criticizes him further.
More than Republican. There's no Republican Party anymore. It's dead. Donald Trump killed it. Like he's like a parasite that ate its host from the inside out. It's over. So I'm one of the small group of survivors from the old school of limited government, individual freedom and liberty, constitutional adherence. You know, there's not many of us. You could fit us around the table at a Waffle House most days, but you know, we're still sort of trying to hold the line in this very crazed era. It's safe. This is Donald Trump desperately trying to cast his new reality show and to turn Nancy Pelosi into his foil. You know, the caravan, by the way, will disappear in a puff of smoke today, because he has to find a new bandit, a new devil. And he's going to try to do that to Nancy Pelosi. He recognized today, and I hope Republicans recognize, that this man has no loyalty to anyone. You know, he's blaming Mia Love and Carlos Curbelo and others for not embracing him. He gave them a fatal disease. He pushed them as Republicans alone into a corner where they were unacceptable to their...
Trump detests mockery of him more than he detests Diet Coke shortages. Wilson knows this and has turned it into an art form. With each quip and well-timed insult, he causes Trump to have yet another social media meltdown. Wilson no longer merely ridicules Trump, he slowly cooks him on a spit while basting him in justice until he's extra crispy. As long as Wilson has a keyboard and Wi-Fi, Trump's ego is undoubtedly in danger. They're voters. Let's move on to Steve Schmidt. If Rick Wilson delivers, the first blow, Schmidt is the one who delivers the knockout, the steel chair, and the victory dance all at once. The individual is not just a critic, he ruins. He is like a roast master who, after accidentally stepping into politics, decided to make each take more vicious than the last. Schmidt takes aim at Trump for more than just his flaws. He sounds as though he is narrating the collapse of a BL-built Jenga tower. Let's be honest, Trump's political career has more unresolved issues than that one pile that nobody wants to touch. The intensity of Schmidt's comments warranted the use of a referee and a standing 8 count. Did he just say that Trump is his favorite topic and that every tweet statement and vehement monologue is like a masterclass in ego deconstruction? His method combines comedic destruction with political analysis. In equal measure, Schmidt isn't your average Trump jerk. He flexes, hangs on the rim, and breaks the backboard as the crowd goes wild if there is a hall of fame for political takedowns. Schmidt isn't the only one he probably designed. The building wrote the plaques and wrote the induction speech while giving another legendary burn.
Donald Trump wants you to be afraid. He wants you to have anxiety. It is all part of his political strategy to provoke rage and then more rage. He wants people to be angry because anger, in his estimation, is a preface to surrender, to hopelessness, to capitulation. The lies are coming faster, and they're getting bigger, and they're becoming more aggressive. They demand that you have amnesia about what you just saw under his command. And they demand that you accept as explanation for whatever happens in the world what Donald Trump tells you it is, no matter how stupid, how venal, or how false. His ideology is malicious, his methods are sinister, and the damage is just beginning.
The story of the hour is the collapse of the Trump campaign. His ludicrous remarks and speech while delivering supposedly comments about the economy were something for the ages. It seems Donald Trump has finally figured out how to go after Kamala Harris.
When Kamala lays out...
That was enough to send Trump into a full-blown meltdown, complete with angry tweets accusing him of wrongdoing and a dramatic appeal for loyalty from people who can barely tolerate him. But Steve Schmidt had not yet stopped mocking him. He even went so far as to draw attention to the painfully obvious, oh no, surprisingly, Trump is surrounded by people who would rather be somewhere else. Despite his demands for unwavering loyalty, Melania treats his situations as though they were a tedious dental visit. She only shows up when absolutely necessary and then vanishes as soon as she has control over her own party members. Kala is presenting her fake economic plan this week, which is probably a copy of mine because she basically does the same thing as you recall from a few days ago. Tips would not be taxed. I said that was my plan.
Kamala Harris has a plan for service workers in America. Your tips won't be taxed. And Donald Trump is very, very upset about it. He says it's his idea. When Donald Trump was president, did he do anything to reduce taxes on tips? But at any rate, the Don is spinning.
Now, let's be clear. What Donald Trump is doing is trying to incite violence. Donald Trump understands exactly what he's saying. He's hoping for mayhem as his final insulation from the consequences of his actions. Donald Trump is signaling that he would prefer civil war than to accept arrest. The thing about Donald Trump is that he doesn't care about the country. He's a vandal. He cares about himself, and he'll burn it all down to sate his ego, to try to satisfy his narcissistic urges. Donald Trump despises both the American people, who he's conned and lied to, more than 30,000 times over the 4 short years of his presidency. Donald Trump can't be trusted except to do one thing, which is the worst thing always that he can do in any given moment. And in this case, it's to incite violence.
About him as though they were gossiping high school students rolling their eyes when he turns around, but nodding in agreement. In public, not to mention his former assistants, who like a cheap faucet spread rumors about his outbursts, if Trump thought. He had a loyal army of soldiers under his command. The Lincoln Project is here to remind him that most of them are just waiting for the right moment to leave. He is being hailed as a steady genius one moment, and then his outbursts in the White House are being exposed. The only thing holding his inner circle together right now is their fear of being called one of his infamously irate nicknames. Otherwise, they would be more leaky than a sinking, sad being. He couldn't simply let the Lincoln Project's advertisements go unnoticed. Instead, he had to enter Truth Social like a child with a shattered toy, his fingers moving across the keyboard more quickly than his hair in a hurricane. His answer a long-winded tiat about how Steve Schmidt and Rick Wilson are losers, how the Lincoln Project is failing, and how nobody watches their ads, though he obviously does. Trump's classic reasoning is to declare something irrelevant if it bothers you, but then obsess over it like a dog chasing its tail. The irony: Trump is effectively giving the Lincoln Project a golden megaphone each time he responds. Their message is suddenly tenfold more popular after they post an advertisement, and he rage tweets about it. It's like witnessing someone's scream. The Mirror started it after punching themselves in the face. Wilson and Schmidt, meanwhile, are most likely enjoying margaritas and laughing uncontrollably while seated in their offices. Yes, Donald, don't stop yelling at us about how fake we are. Your fans will love it. They know exactly what buttons to push, and Trump keeps falling into their traps like a cartoon character falling off a cliff. The Lincoln Project strategy is pure genius. Their advertisements are psychological warfare in addition to being political. They entice him into exaggerated responses that support their argument. Observe how insane he becomes when confronted, and Trump, the drama king, never fails to deliver their assertions that he is thin-skinned, paranoid, and desperate to avoid attention are only supported by his tweets about losing or fake news these days. It's a personal grudge rather than merely politics, in addition to criticizing his policies. These former Republican strategists are also disparaging his reputation, legacy, and ego. They also enjoy seeing him wriggle his tirades about losers and failed ads, only serve to reinforce his belief that the Lincoln Project has struck a chord. Trump secretly detests the thought of being the target of the joke. The worst part is that he is actually writing their jokes for them. The fire is only fueled by every misspelled word, every insane accusation, and every non sequitur that sounds like Kofifi the Lincoln Project. The rubber in Trump's ego is the glue that is all over the internet. It's like an endless game name of I'm rubber, you're glue. Remember that each time he participates, they come out on top, their message gains traction, his truth turns into viral content, and his credibility is further damaged. Trump is merely the punchline in this cycle, which is so predictable that it's practically scripted. However, Wilson and Schmidt wrote the script here. We are people a spectacle in which the former president's tirades turn into free advertising for the Lincoln Project, with Trump's inability to let go of his own ego being the only thing that is failing in 2025. Even feuds require a TikTok soundtrack, so stay tuned, and there's no doubt that this one will be popular. P.S. Click subscribe if you want to follow the mayhem as it happens, because there's nothing more amusing than seeing a billionaire go crazy over a series of advertisements that obviously irritate him. By clearly, we mean that he has already discussed it in 7 tweets.
For our MAGA friends, you are not allowed to be surprised. Oh my gosh, you're in the finding out phase? Well, guess what? You know why you got to the finding out phase? Because you fucked around. Here's the deal. I'm starting to see people in MAGA world and outside of the normal political stuff on social media too, realizing that, oh my God, these peanut farmers and soybean farmers in Alabama and in Georgia, the product that they sold to feed starving children that went through USAID, that the government's not buying it anymore, that's on y'all.
They know that we will defeat them, but they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just standing in their way, and I always will stand in their way. Thank you.
As usual, she's nowhere to be seen in New York. She might be as far from Morao as she can be. Perhaps she is quietly celebrating the fact that everything is being handled. By the Link Project, maybe she's just buying an expensive coat with a passive-aggressive slogan on the back. It's obvious that she isn't exactly leaping to Trump's defense in the end. This goes beyond another Trump tiat. It reminds us that in spite of his haughtiness and tough guy rhetoric, he is still the same thin-skinned person who cannot handle criticism. Trump is like a toddler with a PhD in overreaction, turning every criticism into a personal insult. He's writing a Truth Social post about nut-loving radicals at 3 in the morning if a squirrel is glaring at him. What about the Lincoln Project? They are the bullies from the playground who have discovered his one weakness, which is anything that makes him feel inferior. They are aware that he should not disregard their advertisements. Why? Because Trump, like a caveman with a smartphone, can't help but rage post about them on Truth Social. He will tweet the Lincoln Project is failing, while also demonstrating their point. Watch him spiral Schmidt and Wilson, knowing that every Trumpian outburst only serves to fuel their next commercial. They are the puppeteers laughing in the background. A vicious cycle exists. A truth dart is thrown by the Lincoln Project. Trump roasts it with a loser's tweet, audiences devour it, and the cycle repeats. To be honest, it's like watching a clown give away free tickets to his own circus every time he yells about fake news or Hollywood elitists, his act of alpha leader. He twitched, flailed, and unintentionally amplified every attack directed at him, more akin to a strongman light version. What's the punchline? Trump's biggest weakness is his ego. The Lincoln Project will continue to send. He will continue to rage post. And America will be able to watch it all like a free, endless reality show called How to Single-Handedly Sabotage Your Brand. And enjoy it if you're prepared for more of this circus. Subscribe. The only thing that can be predicted in this situation is that Trump will continue to be his own worst enemy, and we will all continue to laugh as the world burns, not in charge of the actual burning.